Zadondaini, Electro Ninja here, and welcome back to Electro Ninja's Lab. Before we actually get into the actual point of this video, I just want to direct your attention to the iCards, because currently I am curious to know if you guys would be interested in my more big series returning to the channel, such as Stuffed Adventures, and of course, History Tonight. History Tonight is obviously a more in-depth series that takes a lot more time than Stuffed Adventures or literally any of the series. So that's why I'm mostly asking you to go to the iCards and just tell me if you guys want to see those again. So if you guys are interested in them, definitely vote up in the iCards. But anyways, let's get into the actual video. Show Locke and Key some love. So, what is Locke and Key? Locke and Key is a mystery series on Netflix that is honestly a fantastic show. Now, honestly, this show doesn't necessarily need me to tell you it's an amazing show that you need to go watch. Because it's Netflix, everyone's going to go watch it anyways, eventually. But it honestly is a fantastic show that really does need some more attention. Because honestly, I think that a lot of people are going to enjoy this show. It has aspects of some of the most popular shows in the world, specifically Stranger Things, as well as Promise Neverland. These three shows are obviously horror, kind of mystery. Well, at least for Stranger Things and Locke and Key. And while obviously Locke and Key doesn't delve too much into the horror aspects as Promise Neverland and Stranger Things, it does delve very deeply into the mystery aspect, delving extremely into the twists, the turns, the figuring out for yourself what exactly is going to be happening in the future. There are tons of things throughout the entire series that are honestly just odd enough that you want to think something's not right here. And that happens a lot. And that's kind of the biggest draw of this show, I think. Before we actually get into too much about that, I also want to explain the story. What is this show story-wise about? Locke and Key focuses on three kids primarily. The Lockes. Bodhi, who is the youngest, as well as his brother Tyler and his sister Kinsey, both of which are teenagers going into currently in high school, both of which appear to be looking for going into college before too long. With Kinsey wanting to pursue an art degree, and Tyler really not sure. These kids recently lost their dad. Because of course they did. It's a freaking TV show that is based off a comic. Of course they lose their dad. But unlike certain shows, these guys are literal kids. Bodhi is maybe 11, and the other two are still in high school. With Tyler maybe being a senior, and Kinsey most likely being a junior. I could see her being a sophomore, but the point is that these kids just saw their father die right in front of them with nothing that they could do. And their mom was there too. You actually see in the first episode, it starts off by basically explaining that their dad is dead. You see these little weird things beforehand, but most of them are pretty important later on, so it kind of makes sense. But their dad is dead. And it's that is well known. But when you find out exactly how it happened, it's terrifying. It is a terrifying thought. A guy who Tyler considered his friend literally walked into their house, being thought of to be a friend, pulled a gun on their dad. Tyler is out currently, and Kinsey and Bodhi are in the back playing a game, and they hear about the gun, and they hide. Their mom is painting, turns around to see the gun, and gets shot in the leg. Tyler comes running up to the door, starts banging, trying to get in, because he left his key. And momentarily, the murderer is distracted. Their dad tries to grab the gun, but is shot. Basically in front of his entire family. And that's just the beginning of the show. Throughout the show, the kids are now living in their dad's old home, Key House, and they're searching for these keys. They don't know how many there are, and even we don't necessarily know. While we have been told that the current number of keys that we've seen do appear to be the only ones, it is definitely possible that there's a lot more. Currently, we've seen a total of 12 keys, and I'm not going to get into what all of them do, but some of them are pretty insane. Eventually, throughout the first episode, they find out about this well lady who is stuck in a well and is really creepy, and you know instantly that she's evil. Even Bodhi knows that she's evil, but he gives her a key anyways that can let her loose in the world. And so on and so forth. Many things happen, and it's honestly terrifying to know. Eventually, more... I don't want to get too much into this, but they also find out that adults, for some reason, can't remember magic. And that's honestly probably like just to do the whole parents can't be involved bullshit for a lot of shows. But, yeah. There's also, before we actually finish the discussion of the actual show, there is actually a moment in the show that is honestly the most hilarious thing, and it's only in the first episode. But Bodhi is told by his uncle that the middle finger also means goodbye because he was flipping off the house. And Bodhi takes that to an extreme and says aloha while flipping both his uncle and later his mom off, and it's honestly just the funniest thing ever. And it's just, I want it to become a thing that like friends will just do to each other as they're like saying goodbye. They'll just like aloha and then book it. And people will be like, what the hell is wrong with these teenagers today? But honestly, like, we do that anyways, so it's not that surprising. There's a lot to it, but yeah. This whole show has tons of mysteries throughout it. And little pieces of just these little details that are honestly, most of the time you're not really thinking about them. But then as you're watching them, you're like, okay, that's odd. That is very odd. Why is that so strange to me? And then, later down the line, it gets revealed. And some people won't necessarily pick up on these little details right away, while others will, such as me. There's a character that um I'm not going to say his name because that would be a spoiler, that the moment I saw this character, I thought they're evil. I didn't know why. I don't know. I didn't and my parents actually were like, "What? He seems fine." And I'm just like, "No, he's evil. He is totally evil. This character is totally a bad guy. I don't know what it is, but he's going to turn out to be a bad guy and it's going to be completely obvious." And it happens, and it's just like, I knew it. I freaking knew it. And there's a lot of other things like this throughout the entire show. Just tons and tons of little Chekhov's guns, and it's honestly amazing to see. I've talked before about how making a show that is rewatchable is kind of a slippery slope, and the same goes for calamity stories. While this is not a calamity story, it is a story that you can rewatch. Most shows, you can watch them once, wait a bit, come back to it later. But a show that is truly rewatchable is truly something to be sought after. Like I said, um, several shows such as Raising Dion, they don't do this well because Raising Dion doesn't have any Chekhov's guns. Like, literally, there is nothing hinting at the twist for that. Meanwhile, for this, there's just all these little tiny pieces. And it's just like, something's off. Something is completely off here. Something needs to be solved here. And you work it out in your head and eventually find it, and you're like, I figured it out. It's truly an awesome show to watch. And I do mean that there are tons of these little mysteries that are just like, oh, huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, I can see that now. I can totally see that now. And the other nice thing is that even if you're not necessarily someone who likes to rewatch shows, this actually looks back at the things that you should have been rewatch or that you should rewatch the shows for, just in case. Just to be like, yeah, here's this little information. And honestly, it doesn't happen too often, but it is there. There's actually a moment in the final episode that is honestly a truly masterful piece of work, where for a brief moment, everyone gets divided, gets separated or whatever, and you're just like, huh, I don't know if I trust anyone. And they specifically choose to show something interesting, specifically showing one of the characters to grab a key, which is something that only the Locke, basically anyone can do, is just take the key, except for an echo, and that is explained in the show. So you automatically know, okay, this character isn't evil. This is actually them. But it does lead you to wonder if this other character maybe isn't. So, yeah, definitely some interesting things to at least think about. So if you guys do like mysteries, I honestly do suggest you watch this show, because if anything else you take away from this show, Lock and Key is truly an amazing show that honestly I think that a lot of people who are fans of mysteries and fans of horror will honestly really enjoy. But let me know down in the comments below what you think of this show. Obviously, if you want me to talk about it more in the future, I'm all for it. Honestly, I expect to be doing multiple theories about this show, later down the line when the show is actually coming up for its second season, if maybe not earlier. So, speaking of which, if you guys have any theories about Lock and Key, Miraculous, My Hero Academia, or literally any show that I talk about on this channel, definitely leave them down in the comments below. Of course, if you are going to leave a theory, make sure to use the hashtag theory review. Of course, leave any other comments down there as well. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and ring that notification bell. And of course, if you do want to support the channel even more, then do check out the links down in the description below, including my Patreon, my books, and my merch store, all of which are all linked down there, as well as my social medias. So if you guys are interested in supporting the channel even more, then definitely check them out down there. But anyways, guys, I've been Electro Ninja, and I will see you guys next time. But on!